Oh, hey, didn't see you there. Welcome, come on in. Welcome hockey players, welcome hockey parents. And you're just in time for the Daily C Show with Course and Searles. The best part of the day, maybe even the best part of your week. And before we get started, we need to do the simultaneous sip. And every time we do it, we can feel the hockey world getting more and more back to normal. And all you need for the simultaneous sip is water, Gatorade, or powdered greens, BioSteel protein, or any sports drink in between. So I prefer Himalayan sea salt mixed in with my water and a little bit of lemon. And join me now for the dopamine hit of the week, the thing that makes everything better, including hockey shutdowns and restrictions. So join me now for the simultaneous sip. And it happens now. Go. Can feel the lockdown getting a little shorter every single time we do that. So make sure you join in. Now, what do we want to do? Why are you here? We're here to unveil the hockey curtain. The curtain of secrets that many people keep for only the elite hockey players, and reveal the deeper truths of hockey performance, and to uncover what makes a great player, and to turn hockey into a game that you can dominate and you can enjoy simultaneously. So make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment about what you want to hear about next. And let's get to the show. So let's talk about some micro upgrades that you can make this week. So one thing that I've been doing a lot of is I've been lifting a lot more. Lifting has been the focus of my training for the last several months now, knowing that the hockey season has been delayed quite a bit. Unfortunately, my team has been one of the teams that isn't playing. So my focus has been working on the things that I usually have always missed out on, which is strength, doing extra speed work, injury prevention and mobility, getting myself prepared in ways that I've really never been able to get prepared before. So knowing that next season I'm going to be at an even higher level because now I'm going to have tools that previously I was missing. So when it comes to that, something that I've ran into is some shoulder pain. Now I've had injuries in the past, I've had surgery on one of my shoulders, and I know that a lot of people run into this. I know that a lot of people sit a lot. So if you're a person who sits a lot and you found that you've had shoulder injuries, here's a suggestion I have for you. So first of all, it may be your infraspinatus. Now I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to tell you that you have to go do any of these things. These are just suggestions, but it's what's worked for me. So you may have infraspinatus issues, which is basically in the back of your shoulder. If you're watching the video, it's a muscle that runs basically, it's like a triangle that ties in here on your shoulder blade and runs in and then ties in kind of in the back head of the shoulder. And it's basically what helps to rotate the muscle or the arm out. So something you may want to keep in mind is if you're sitting a ton, you need to be doing things to counteract this hunched over situation that a lot of people run into. So an upgrade you can make here is every single time you spend about half an hour approximately at a desk sitting, spend some time doing something that pulls and forces your shoulders and your rhomboids and everything to tighten and pull back. Because when you're doing this, it's tightening forward, so you want to do the opposite of that. So something that my physio guy suggested that I do was doing band pull aparts. So you could just have a band beside you. Unfortunately, right now I don't, but just doing pull aparts, just pull. And that's going to help strengthen those muscles right between your shoulder blades. And that's going to help you reduce that shoulder stress. So there's other techniques you can do. Simply just Google infraspinatus exercises, and you'll find a ton of different things you can do there. Now, here's a question for you. Do you find yourself lifting hard? Do you find yourself pushing really hard in the gym? So one of the issues that a lot of people run into is that they train too hard. This is something I've made a mistake of in the past couple weeks. I've done a couple sessions where I push myself to the absolute limit. Now, this is good, and a lot of people think, I'm gonna push myself harder, harder, harder. But if you push too hard and you put too much stress on yourself, what will happen is you're not going to recover in time for the next thing. So avoid this mistake. And what you want to do is, your goal is to develop, but make sure that you're not going past 95%. So what I always like to consider is never train to complete failure. Whether you're doing squats, whether you're doing benching, whether you're doing any exercise, always leave a rep in the tank. So, but when you get extremely exhausted, don't push and then do an additional eccentric movement where you're moving really slow. Say you're doing a chin up. So chin up concentric is pulling up. So instead of doing like a really slow down and then when you're gassed, you add extra eccentric things. Instead of doing that, stop. Stop before you get to that point of complete failure, because what happens when you push your body past that is you're actually taxing your system so much that now it needs more time to recover. You want to be recovered by your next training session so you can keep making gains. Now, there's tons of different approaches to training, and some people may say this is the wrong approach, but I recommend this for hockey players who want to work really hard, who push themselves extremely hard, but find that they're not getting the benefits they want from their training. Don't push yourself and strain yourself too much. Be aware that training too hard is actually bad technique, because then you're going to run into doing the techniques actually wrong. The mechanics of the movements may be wrong. That may lead to injuries. Being tired and fatigued going into additional skates can also cause a lot of problems. So take that seriously. Really consider how that may be impacting you, that you may be training too hard in the gym. And this comes down to knowing when your body needs to recover. But again, use that 95% rule. Always leave one rep in the tank, and you should be able to push yourself, make the strength gains you want to make, the speed gains, the power gains, the muscle gains you want, but without ruining your skill work, because that's what we want to do. We want to combine all these things together into our system and allow us to perform at a higher and higher level all the time. And you don't want your training to hold you back. And again, that's something that a lot of people are afraid of if they lift too much, that they're going to lose their skill. You won't if you train properly. So go to a personal trainer if you have more questions about these things. But if your trainer says push to the absolute limit, I challenge you to question that and understand why they're asking you that. Maybe there's a phase that they want you doing that. But if you're working on your skills simultaneously, you don't want to be completely exhausted. All right, so hopefully that upgrade helps. Another example, or another upgrade that you guys can make is ankle stability. So I have a theory on ankle stability. And I think that if you start doing some drills that are designed for basically working on ankle stability, I think this is going to really help you. So the reason I think this is because if you look at, for example, a car. When a car is driving, no matter how much output the engine has, if the tire, the thing that's making contact with the ground, sucks, it's not going to allow you to perform at your best. So what you may run into, and the issue you may have, is that the engine, so all the big muscles, your legs, your calves, all those muscles, obviously your glutes, these might be firing really well, but your ankles may be struggling. Maybe it's actually your calves and you're not able to use proper stability and strength in that area. Or maybe your ankles are rolling, or you don't have a certain extension and flexibility. But if you don't have all of the proper strength and stability in the ankles, I think that it's going to cause a lot of problems for you. So what I've started to do is do some basically like basketball and soccer training, jumping drills during the quarantine. And I'm mixing those in as cardio sessions, anywhere from once a week to every 2 weeks. And the reason I'm mixing that in and adding that to the system as a piece is because I want to see how ankle stability helps. Because you want to be able to relax your ankles and use your edges, but at the same time, you also need to be able to stabilize them when taking hits, when doing certain movements. You have to be able to contract and then relax. So don't just work on the relaxation and don't just work on the strength, but know that if you have that stability, I think it's going to make a big difference, especially if you've had ankle issues in the past. Look at doing some bounding drills, doing jumping and hopping, maybe skipping or side-to-side jumping movements, and mix those in. There's actually some YouTube things you can find. Just search small area jumping drills or jumping cardio, and you'll find a ton of different stuff there. So give that a try. Another thing, hockey sense. Can you improve hockey sense by improving your cardio? This is a great question. And it's something that I think a lot of people ignore. Because if you can improve your cardio to a high level, I think that it's going to allow you to make better decisions. I think fatigue leads you to make mistakes and make poor decisions. So if you improve your cardio, I think that therefore that's going to help you make better decisions. It's not going to be the only thing that helps you make better decisions. You actually have to have good decisions in your mind. You have to have the good neural links programmed in there. But if you have the neural links programmed, consider maybe it's fatigue that's the problem. So I think that if you look at what a lot of great athletes are doing, a lot of great a lot of great NHL players, or just players on any good teams, you look at Wayne Gretzky, one of the smartest players who ever played, arguably the smartest. Actually, a lot of people say that he is the smartest. He was an amazing 1,500 meter runner. So for Americans, that's about a mile. He was really good at running a really fast mile. He was like provincial, or as in like state level. So he's very, very good at that amount of running. So I wonder if there's a connection between having great cardio and having great hockey sense. I wonder if being able to play an entire 1 minute shift at really high capacity is going to make a big difference. So a lot of players, and I know for me, one of the biggest issues I've had in the past was that when my cardio was really good, so at first, before I had an issue, I found my cardio was really good. I played soccer, I could run a 90-minute game. But when I stopped doing that, I found that my speed dropped off a lot. So maybe for you, if you've never had really, really good cardio from running, try experimenting with doing runs. So maybe you actually do mile runs to start and just get really good at being able to run at a high pace for a longer extended period and see how that affects your on-ice decision making. So that's a theory that I want you to test out. So leave a comment, send me a message, let me know how that works for you. But it's worth considering what that may do for you. And there's a lot of evidence, again, that suggests that. If you look at any great players, they're all often good at running. It's a weird connection that I found. A lot of professional soccer players or borderline pro soccer players that are also in the NHL. So that could be a connection between just great athletes. But I think the running plays a big component in being fast because, yes, there's a sprinting aspect, and that's an obvious. If you sprint and you skate fast, it's going to help you get faster. But at the same time, if you have that cardio and you can move fast for longer periods, that might help. It might make a difference. So who knows? Now, finally, this is something that I really wanted to talk about, the World Juniors. So the World Juniors are among us right now. And in the spirit of this concept, I wanted to talk about a concept within the World Juniors that I think we're starting to notice. This is a pattern that we're seeing with a lot of great players coming through the ranks. Young players are getting more and more skilled. It's almost a automatic that players have high skill. If you're looking at the World Juniors, even the weaker teams all have a consistent amount of players who have solid talent. If you look at the Canadian team, the American team, the Russian team, the Swedish team, the Finnish team, even if you look at the Czechs, the Swiss have some players, the Germans have some strong players. Skill is starting to become kind of a automatic. You can always find a good skills coach. You can go online and find tons of great drills and do them yourself. But I have a theory on what the next thing is, what the next part of the puzzle is, and what's going to separate players. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. If you watch my stuff a lot, you think I'm going to say mental. Now, I think that mental is going to play a massive part of this, but I think that people are starting to wake up to this concept of the mental game. So let's not focus on that. That's an obvious. We've discussed it many times. We'll discuss many of these topics in the future again, but consider this point. What if the difference between players now is specialization? Consider that for a second. So what is specialization? What's an example of it? Well, first of all, specialization is when you focus on one specific thing and you get really good at that. Now, a lot of players are going to have skills that they're already naturally good at. They're going to have strengths. Now, what I'm thinking and what I'm suggesting for future players is considering if you can specialize in something and then be good at everything else. So consider being maybe the top 25%, the top 5% in 1 to 3 skills, and specialize in those. Because if you can specialize, what this is going to do and what this is going to give you the ability to do is be identified by coaches, by scouts, by teams as that player. And this is where the identity comes in. It's being that type of player and people identifying and saying and knowing that's your identity. You're a fast player with really good down low work and able to finish in tight. You're a smooth skater with an amazing release, and you are really good off the half wall, for example. Piecing together and picking 1 to 3 core things that you're phenomenal at. Sometimes it might just be one thing, but if you can get known for those specific things, this might make the difference between you being on a very high level team or maybe being a few levels below, because there's going to be a massive wave every single year of new young players who have the skills. The skill set is actually pretty obvious at this point. But now what we need to do, instead of just having skill, is specialize and develop an actual strategy. And then with that strategy, develop a system that's going to allow you to get to that point, to piece these things together. Because when it comes to development, if you just get good at all areas, that is important to be a complete player. That's going to allow you to dominate. But in order to keep moving up the ranks, you need to be able to be identified by something. So find ways to specialize. Right now, pick your one strength and then find ways to keep getting better at that. If you can keep improving and mastering that, it's going to separate you from the rest of the world, because the better you get at that one thing, you're suddenly going to be able to rely on that. You're going to have coaches who can rely on you in that situation. Maybe you're a player who is able to take great one-timers. Look at someone like Ovechkin. Now, Ovechkin has a lot of different parts to his game, but he has made a living off of one-timers from the same spot. So I don't recommend focusing on one-timers. I think that's something that a lot of people have figured out. Now, you could, but look at what you could specialize in and base that on what you're already good at. Don't take something you suck at. So if you're a slow player, don't try to specialize in speed. You want to move that up so it doesn't hold you back. But find something you're already really good at. Maybe you have an amazing wrist shot. Work on that and become unbelievable at wrist shots. If you're really good at stick handling, become amazing at stick handling. And then suddenly you have a piece of the game that no one else can compete with. And suddenly that is your specific strength. That's a pillar that nobody can break down and everybody can rely on you for. So that's what I'm seeing in the World Juniors. That's what I've really noticed, is the guys who have certain things that they're very good at are able to separate themselves, and that skill has become a baseline. So the mental stuff is going to continue to become a massive part of it. The confidence, the certainty, and then the decision making in the hockey sense, those things are massive. And the identity sense is going to be the next wave. And we're going to talk about that more moving forward. And identity sense is knowing your strengths, knowing your weaknesses, knowing your skill stack, putting together the patterns and having them pre-programmed, and then knowing that those patterns have tons of options and leveraging those options based on your skill stack. So that is the future of hockey in my mind. I'm going to suggest to you that you focus on a strength and then continue to push forward with that strength and continue to experiment. We're talking about the 15 pillars on my YouTube channel, and we're going to be breaking down the 15 pillars of what makes a dominant hockey player. And this is the success formula for hockey. So go to my YouTube channel. I'll leave a link below to check out the YouTube channel. I really suggest that you consider looking through and seeing how you can become a full dominant player. And then in addition to that, if you want to find ways to develop your strengths, remove your weaknesses, and work on the mental game, check out the links where you can join the Identity 2.0 team, the elite team, the premium team. Because If you want to take your game to the next level, you need to be working with next level players and coaches. And that's what we brought together here in this program, in this membership group. So I hope you guys check that out. But most of all, I hope that you take the advice from this, start working on your strengths, and have an amazing week. Continue to dominate whatever you're doing. And if you have questions, leave a comment, let me know what they are. And I will see you next week in the next video. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm Corson Searles from Identity 2.0.